Great, we're
We
live.
are live. We are live. Look at
Awesome.
that. Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, everyone. We have one viewer, though can't see who that individual is.
Alzheimer's
Alzheimer's
Witness.
Witness.
Welcome.
Okay,
Thank you for joining us. It says that we have two people. So,
great.
uh, yeah, welcome. Happy Sunday afternoon, everybody. And Adrian, take it away.
Yeah, sure. Uh, so, thanks everyone for making time to connect with us. So, we're excited to have an audience and share a little bit more about our caregiving experiences. So my name's Adrian Chung, and I'm feeling very, very privileged to be joined by Julie Yarbo and Kirsten Mao, who are also fellow Substackers, talking about care and our shared passion for caregiving. It's something that has mattered a great deal to all of us, and it's kind of fantastic how just on the Substack platform we organically found one another, discovered one another through our writing and just connected. So, we thought we'd take this opportunity just to share a little bit more about our experiences and again, build the community within the Substack world around caregiving. So this event, not meant to be a very formal event. This is just a more kind of conversational discussion where we'll share a little bit more about our experiences, some of our learnings, some of our perhaps tips or suggestions for resources, and just begin this conversation around how to take care of aging loved ones who who we care for and want to ensure that they're happy in their twilight years. But Julie, would you like to go first with an introduction, and then we can go to Kirsten and myself and go from there?
All right. Well, hi, everybody. And I saw Mark joined into the call. So I know that person. Thank you for being here. Wonderful voice who can hopefully add to this conversation today. Hi, everybody. I'm Julia Yarbo. Uh, I am based in the Pacific Northwest. I am a former broadcast journalist, former family caregiver to my elderly, now deceased mother, turned advocate and educator. And I just want to try to talk to as many people as I can about the realities of caregiving, the things we need to know, things we can start to put in place beforehand. And also not only for the loved ones that we might be caring for, but other friends and family. And then as each of us ages, to start thinking forward. So my platform is Keeping It Real Caregiving. Please feel free to follow along, connect in. And I love that I have met Adrian and Kirsten because of Substack. Very organic, very like-minded individuals who want to help others and share information, which I love. We don't have enough good in the world right now. So this is just wonderful to me. So thank you for inviting me to take part in our Because We Care session today.
And I can go next. My name is Kirsten Mao. I host a podcast and write a Substack that's called Who Gets the China? And I really came to this when my parents started aging, and especially during the pandemic. All of a sudden I realized we had a lot of work cut out for ourselves in terms of getting them ready to age in place, keeping them healthy. And really my perspective starts a lot with trying to help my mom get rid of the clutter so that she can live a safe, healthy, happy life in the house that she shares with my dad. And we know that there are so many of us who are caregiving, who are the eldest daughter. In this case, not all of us are daughters, which I love that about our group here. But we know that the caregiving often falls to the eldest daughter. And in my case, it kind of started with, let's look around this house. How can it be safe for you? That means getting rid of some of the extra stuff that my mom has held on to. And I started sharing just some funny stories with friends and realized we're all going through this together. And, one thing leads to another. When you have aging parents, things change quickly, right? And we need to support one another with expertise, a shoulder to cry on, a cheerleading crew to really help you get through some of the tougher days. And I started this podcast mostly thinking about that sort of human element, but then through it met so many amazing experts working in so many different ways to support caregivers. And so I just am excited to bring that knowledge to all my listeners and to you all today. So thanks for hosting us to share what we know.
That's awesome. Cool. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll just share a little bit more about myself. My name is Adrian Chung. I've worked in the healthcare space for over a decade now, but not necessarily on the patient side, more from a biomedical background. So I used to work in cancer screening and testing, respiratory testing, trying to use the latest technologies to really help some of the decision making that goes on around a patient's medical care. However, while that's been, one part of what I do, another part has really been being the primary caregiver for my mother. So from a very young age, she developed a joint disease. So throughout my life, I've only seen her taking care of and managing her illness. As a result, um, given my biomedical background, I sort of kind of slipped. It fell into the role of being the primary caregiver, of advocating for her with her providers and doctors, of helping to coordinate and manage the care at home, working with other family members, communicating with them, etc., throughout the overall process as she's managed her illness. And that's really what's prompted me to begin wanting to discuss and talk about caregiving, but also actually on the side, I'm also developing a tech platform that really empowers and helps caregivers as well. So that's the angle that I'm coming in from, when it relates to caregiving. So again, thanks everybody for joining. We're going to have this as being more of an organic discussion, but we do have some guiding conversations, some guiding questions. And I think, the first one perhaps is maybe if we'd share a little bit more about the challenges that we'd face, and how that's really kind of driven and shaped our perspectives around caregiving. Kirsten, do you want to go first? And then we can
Sure, I
kind of
can go first. Yeah, we can change it up.
go from
So
there.
I think, as I said, I mean, I'm an eldest daughter. And I think in our culture, and I'm excited to talk about how it is in different cultures because it's not the same everywhere. Often the eldest daughter is the default caregiver. So we know in this country there's 63 million caregivers, 61% of them are women, and 70% of us are in the sandwich generation. So we're dealing with kids and parents who need us, and trying to manage careers and relationships and actually take a vacation or a trip or two every once in a while. And so I think the thing that's been the hardest for me is frankly getting my parents to acknowledge that their stage of life requires different attention.
Mm.
They don't see that. They, luckily for them, think everything is pretty great, and it is pretty great. But, for instance, my dad's 91. He shuffles when he walks. He's got some mild mobility issues. My mom loves a throw rug. She loves 10 throw rugs. And I'm trying to say to them, Mom, Dad, we want him to be safe. We don't want him to fall. Like, let me help you get rid of the throw rugs. And that's been a battle. Even last week I was there. She was like, look, I got rid of 3 throw rugs. That's great. But they need to understand that these are long-term changes that will help them age in place better, more safely. But they're not out there seeking that information for themselves. In my case, I know everyone's different. So it's up to me often to kind of bring these topics to the table. And then I will admit, oftentimes I might be a little pushy with my agenda. I might really want to be like, come on, we're going to do this. You need this. You're going to be safer with this. And they don't want that. And so for me, just that has been a real challenge, understanding what I think they need, what they think they need, and then offering the right advice in the right time and in the right place. And it's not always perfect, but my heart is in the right place, and they know that. But that's just an ongoing opportunity for improvement I've experienced in my life. So yeah, Julia, what comes to mind for you?
So I'm taking notes in the background because I'm reliving my moments, hearing you talk about the throw rugs, the shuffling, the clutter, uh, thinning out the house, having it feeling that maybe you're a little pushy. You've just described me. We're sisters from afar. Um, so just a quick overview of why this whole topic for caregiving. As I mentioned, I lost my mom in 2020, right? So it's been a little bit of time frame in there. And somebody could say, well, why are you still talking to others about caregiving? You're not in it any longer. I distinctly remember as I entered into that role, I didn't truly understand that I was a caregiver because I was helping my mom with her shopping, with getting to and from doctor's appointments, had helped her get situated in her home, was semi-responsible for helping her with her social activities, going with her to doctor's appointments and helping her manage the medication, starting to learn about insurance and what the difference was between private insurance, Medicare insurance for anybody who's military, TRICARE insurance, right? So there's all these terms. And I quickly realized, wow, there is a lot to know about getting older, right? And all three of us have seen it. Many of you on the call, I'm sure, have seen it as well. And Kirsten, you make a good point that you're looking at this saying, "Mom and Dad, this next chapter in your life," right? And so my goal has been to take all the different things that I learned, and a lot of it was trial and error. And I think, oh my gosh, if only I had had someone who gave me a checklist of what to do, which is what I absolutely love about Substack, right? Because there are many, many organizations that are providing information, right? They're providing medical information. If you have a very specific medical condition, you can turn to that organization. Many of us have heard of AARP. You can get information there. You can get information from Medicare.gov. You can get information from your local agencies. But sometimes talking to another person who has lived it, you get what I call those DIY hacks, right? The DIY hacks of caregiving, of saying, hey, if your parents have a lot of items in their home, you may want to scope it out, do some intel, and say, there are a lot of throw rugs in this house, right? That throw rug may look great, and mom and dad or aunt or uncle might love it. But if that throw rug creates a trip and fall hazard, the throw rug could be the beginning of them being in the hospital, which could be the beginning of a whole nother situation of care, right? So to this sharing our personal stories, I think sometimes is very powerful. I'm pretty sure anybody who's on this call or somebody who will watch it later will go, "Oh my God, Kirsten, I've got the throw rug issue going on," and they feel it,
Probably.
instantly know it,
Or
right?
their own version of throw rugs,
Yeah,
whatever it is that's
exactly.
driving them crazy today.
Right? And I'll wrap up this portion of the conversation that with those items with my mom, one of the things I approached a lot of these conversations with humor because I knew mom was just very steadfast in what she wanted, how she wanted it. And I get that. I'm good. We're all type A people. We're probably the same way. So I just approached it with humor. And I would say, well, if you trip on that rug or you trip on those stairs, I may not find you for a few hours and you're really going to be hurt, mom. And then you're going to be in the hospital and you know how you hate hospitals. And then you're going to have that terrible hospital food, right? And she would start laughing, but I could see the wheels turning, right? I helped connect the dots for her. And so then we could lean into those conversations. So if that helps anybody out there, it could be that reverse psychology, you know, rug equals trip equals hospital equals uncomfortable bed equals bad jello equals cold feet. Wait a minute, I don't want any of that. Let me fold up this rug.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's like such a great example. I mean, for me, I'm definitely like learning that because as you were talking about that, I was remembering certain situations I've had with my mom who, does have mobility issues, and she has like low furniture, and I'm like, Mom, it's hard for you to get up. So if whatever happened and you had a fall again, I would not be able to find you. But I think my communication style is probably not as humorous as yours. I'm perhaps a little bit more direct, and I know that that's an area that I can improve on, and I should probably be a little bit more patient. Um, but I mean, even there, you've given me already kind of some skills, some tactics that I will try to employ next time. There's a difficult conversation I need to have with my mother. Uh, but Yeah, I mean, speaking of difficulties, I think for me, the challenge that I've faced has been one of more kind of the distance that I've always had physically. So my mum, she still lives in another country, and while it's great that there are lots and lots of convenient, she lives in Hong Kong, so it's easy for her to kind of get around town, for her to get groceries. She can use the apps, etc. There's still that personal distance of, oh, I don't actually really know what's going on a day-to-day basis. I don't feel that I have a personal presence watching over her, even though we have family that's close by, folks um, that could be there if necessary, if there was an emergency. There's always this nagging feeling of, oh, am I doing enough to be taking care of her? And another difficulty that I felt is, even though I've known my mother has had this chronic illness, and then other things have appeared over time, I never feel that my head is above water. I always feel that I'm dropping the ball. I'm always certain there's something that's going to fall through the cracks, whether it is medication, medication pickup, or if she's taking it at the right dosage, whether she's having the right if she's eating correctly, whether she has all the right routine set up for her, for her home to be clean, etc. Not to mention actually engaging with her providers, with her doctors, and trying to say, oh, we heard this from the her diabetic doctor, her diabetes doctor. What are the implications for her medical regimen? I always feel that there's something that I'm going to drop that could have bad consequences. Not to mention trying to keep everybody in the family in the loop, so they know what's going on, and if they need to step in and take care of her, that they're fully prepared. So that is always an ongoing nagging anxiety that I have, and it's always been a little bit challenging to feel, oh, we got this. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm guessing we probably have most of our bases covered.
Just
I mean, I
listening
think
to
that's
you,
a
Adrienne, I would
caregiver issue.
imagine
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Yeah,
You
go.
can
You
just like
jump in, Juliet.
real quick.
I'm probably going to say the same thing.
Yeah, listening to you, the fact that you're even thinking of all of these things, I'm going to venture to say that you are way ahead of many people, because you're already concerned about what may fall through the cracks. A large portion of the population doesn't even have the plank boards in place, right? So just hearing these items, somebody may go, "Oh, I never thought of doing those." So you're way ahead of the curve. And I think for any caregiver, and both of you jump in on this, I think we have to give ourselves grace for what we can accomplish. And we beat ourselves up, and it has to be perfect, and we don't want to forget anything. But we have to remember that we are doing the best we can with what we have to work with.
Yeah, like I think it was Mark that jumped in and said, "What's a vacation?" Right? And I think that is something I hear a lot among my listeners and people that write in with questions and things of like, what happens to my life? My life gets put on hold, and I feel resentful sometimes about that. I feel frustrated. I can feel angry, but yet they're my parent, and I really want to care for them in a way that will give them the best quality of life as long as possible. And I will say that's something that I know I grapple with. It's like I want to be helpful. I love them. They've done a lot of great things for me, and I want this fourth quarter to really be the best it can be, right? But there are times where you lose the forest for the trees. And I have found for me personally, my my friends, my peer group, my listen, people are great about reminding you, like, you are enough. You are doing enough. Really, all that matters at the end of the day is, do they feel loved? Do they feel care? Do they feel that, that you're there for them? And it's that human connection more than the 4 million things we have on our list, right? And we need to take care of ourselves. And otherwise, we're not going to be able to show up in the way we want to for them.
Yeah, I mean, just you hit the nail on the head, and I distinctly remember a conversation I had with the owners of a care facility. And Mark, I know you're in the call, and you may remember these owners. That's how the two of us connected. Our parents were both in the same facility, and that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day, folks. Right? That's a topic all its own. But I was completely stressing out, and this was the last 9 months of my mother's life. Um, I was stressing out over preparing extra food and taking it to her. Was she eating right? Did she have what she needed? What more could I do? I'd say, call me at any moment. I was over there every single day, right? And there was one point though that I was reminded, if there are X number of months left, and we all know this, um, do you want to spend that time with your mother being completely worried, completely stressed, fussing to her about her choices? Or do you want to just let her be and enjoy the time with her? Right. Um, and to your point, Kirsten, you say, oh, right? It makes us so insane. But again, everybody's at a different point. So each of us have to find that moment in our stretch, in our caregiving role of saying, okay, this is the window I have left with my loved one. I mean, there's no getting out of that unless somebody knows some other way out. As a good friend of mine would always say, none of us are getting out of this alive, right? So we know that that's the end game. And I would always say, um, I want to try to do the best I can in that window. And another friend of mine would always remind me in those moments when I was like, I can't do this anymore. And he'd say, just say to yourself, you get to take care of your mom, not that you have to. And it was such a simple phrase, but it did wonders. And I have shared that in different iterations in my Keeping It Real caregiving platform, that we can switch our mind just a little bit to be able to say, I get to, right? And then you get to spend that time with them that's in a different, uh, you're seeing them in a different perspective. They're talking with you in a different perspective. And those are precious moments. Doesn't make the angst go away, but just remember, once it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
Not to be cruel or heartless, anybody out there who's watching this, but that can help you kind of pull back from that ledge when you're ready to just, "Argh." Just
No,
saying.
I mean, yeah, I mean, thank you. That's a great reframing. Um, because I think it's very easy to regard, and this is going to differ from person to person, to be overwhelmed by what needs to happen, to just be focused on sort of the work of caregiving, the job, the task list, the X, Y, Z. We've got to pick this up. I've got to do this, etc., etc. But but you're right in terms of the reframing, just remembering that we don't get out of this alive. And if that is the one truth that we all know to be absolutely true, how does that affect your approach and your mindset going into the role of caregiving? So thank you for that.
I'm curious. So it says that we have 6 viewers, and of course we can't see you. We can just see your names. Um, of our folks that are on this afternoon, could you type into the chat who all is a caregiver? Um, just out of curiosity. Um, and while we're looking to see if anybody is a caregiver, um, Adrian, you said something. You were, talking about your challenges being a long distance caregiver, and the fact that you are putting a lot of this thought into place. I would actually like to hear more about, your vision for the tech side of it. Um, because for those of us who have lived in rural areas, tech may not always be our best answer, but it could also give us a little bit of leeway to understand what's going on. And I mean, Kirsten, you're in a more metropolitan area, so I would imagine that you see opportunities where people can lean into tech to take some of the edge off, if you will.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's an interesting one because I mean, how people use technology is different, and what their needs are is also going to be different. So it's been interesting, kind of looking at the different solutions out there, and how they, if anything, enhance the caregiver's ability to undertake the responsibilities that they have. So I've been looking into how to develop a platform that can be used both for I call it a digital nerve center for caregiving. as I'd mentioned, there are so many different facets to it, whether it's medication, whether it's home care, whether it's communication, whether it's education as well. And a lot of the time in my experience, I found that I was having to go to so many different places in order to pull them all together. And there was like no one place where I could like view the overall picture of how my mother's care situation was going. How were her symptoms being managed? Was she taking her medication? What did that mean for questions that I might want to actually discuss the next time I'd see her doctor, her provider? So I'm trying to think about how technology can be used just to lift some of that burden and create a little bit more clarity through frankly the chaos that caregiving can be, especially as you go from episodes of stability to someone your loved one has a heart attack and they're in the ER and you're being asked what medications is your mother being on it, are on it, etc. And then how does that actually turn into a new normal once she actually leaves intensive care? So these are all elements where I hope technology can assist with that. And I think another element is how can we also use AI to improve or assist with some of that education, assist with actually suggesting, hey, focus on this because this is probably what's most important to really address right now. And then you can think about X, Y, Z other items, later when she's in a more stable position. So those are areas that right now I'm exploring around how technology could be used and just like integrated into, especially our mobile phones because we carry them around everywhere. Is there a way that we can use those intersections to really be to almost have like a sidekick to your caregiving responsibilities?
I'm thinking about, I was just visiting my parents last week, and it was a heavy IT weekend where we installed a Ring doorbell with a video camera. I reestablished their security camera connection, which of course had broken 942 days ago, but nobody noticed it. So, so that wasn't doing anybody any good. Brought an Alexa Echo 11 into the house because something else that I find, and I will say my parents are both, my dad's a very early adopter. He loves the latest tech. But what I find is that these systems really need to be in place so that you can practice with them, you can try them, you can fail with them. Those are not things that, especially older people who are maybe not digital natives, like it might not come naturally the first few times, right? And so for it to be useful in a crisis, I think there needs to be some planning ahead done so that you have some of these tech pieces in place. And when, the rubber hits the road and there is an emergency, you're kind of ready to go and ready to use it. We had a friend mention that their parent fell and they didn't have their phone near them. And eventually they realized, oh, I have the Alexa. I can say, hey, Alexa, call my mom. And so I think there are going to be some major benefits of having this tech in place, and also puts the caregiver at ease, which for me, that's how I look at it. It's actually mostly a benefit to me, perhaps. But, knowing that Alexa can do that for you, you've got to practice and be knowledgeable so that in the moment it's accessible.
Yeah. I mean, it's for anybody who's on the call or watches later, all three of us, different experiences. We come at it from a different viewpoint, but in agreement, which again, these items, think about it early. Think, how can I utilize what I do have rather than focusing on, oh my gosh, I don't have enough help, which I was guilty of focusing on that. But flip it around and think, okay, how can I use what is available to assist me? And I'll chime in from the rural side of things. So a lot of times when people hear rural, they think middle of the country farmland. When in actuality, rural could mean that you may not have really strong connectivity with your internet. Rural could mean that you have one hospital that serves the entire region so that you don't really have a lot of additional services. Rural could be that the education standards in that region aren't to a level that you might find in a larger metropolitan area, right? And so I discovered that while there are all these amazing tech items, I had to still go old school because I literally, I thought, oh, I'll get one of the fall and call the button and ask for help devices. Well, we didn't have cell usage in my home. The cell signal didn't pick up until you drove to the end of the street and up the hill. So having one of those wouldn't work for us. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I had a landline phone. And there's some people who don't even know what landline means. Old school, plug in, right? A hardwired phone. And then, so I was able to find a system that worked that way, but I had to keep the signal tower, I forget what it's called, the transponder at a set point in the home. And then mom had a little button that could send to that, and then that could connect into the phone. Right. So it was literally plugged into the wall with all of this. But then I also purchased just an in home alarm, which mom could wear a little lanyard that had a button on it. And it didn't go outside to the world, it just went in the home. And it was loud. Think baby monitor. All right. So if
Yeah.
anybody out there is in a situation like this and you go, well, I need to keep an eye or an ear, very, very loud, big, big buttons. So it was easy for her to press and then it would ring and I would keep that transponder with me wherever I was at. And it also even was, I don't know, maybe 600 yards or something. So I could go outside even. So things like that were helpful. And you both mentioned medications. Um, I had things down in my phone, but I also had old school printed out hard copy, a chart with all of mom's medications, when she took them, and what the milligrams were. Right. And I kept that in my purse. I had an extra copy in my car. I had a copy taped to the refrigerator. I had a copy in the bathroom where our in-home care could see it. And I also then emailed that copy to all of my siblings. That way it was in my email, but then they would have it in case something came up. Right. So merge the idea of our tech tools and then old school, especially if you live rural. And then remember that if you go into a doctor's office or a dentist's office, sometimes it's those the big, thick, heavy concrete buildings. You might not always get a signal
Yeah.
once you're in there, right? So hard
So
copy
true.
backups.
Yep.
And I always kept copies. Um, so those are some of my tips, I guess you could say.
Adrian, you're really far from your mom. I'm curious, like, what technology works best for you?
WhatsApp.
Yeah.
I'm always on WhatsApp.
It
Um,
fails.
yeah, it never fails, but it's also how lots of things get melded together. So whether it's like, have you set up XYZ appointment? And then there'll be a series of cat memes because we both love cats. And then I'll finally get the response. So it takes a little bit more work to try and separate things. And I try and call my mom every other day just to make sure that yeah, she's taking the medications that she needs to take. Say she has perhaps a chest infection and she needs to be on meds. And I want to make sure, hey, how's it going? Are there any other symptoms? Because for me, that more kind of ambient monitoring means that I can also see if there's anything that should be addressed and can ask perhaps my aunt or uncle or perhaps a friend close by who has a medical background to be like, oh, what do you think about this? Because it seems our symptoms are evolving. So right now, that is the technology that I'm using a lot of the time. But then if it needs to be anything deeper around, say, what medications she's taking, their dosages, if she is sticking with the actual intake plan, unfortunately, her medications are, the the medical field has progressed such that she only needs to take her medications once a day. That's something that I can would also want to do better tracking. But any questions about the medical history, that's when it becomes challenging for me to be like, oh, yes, I know XYZ happened however many years ago, and having to explain that to other family members that have these questions, that's where it becomes a little bit more challenging. Uh,
Yeah, that's tough. I am laughing because, of course, I have a healthcare binder for my mom, has all our medications, all the things in it. Well, do you think when she had to go to the emergency room for something that she remembered to take it with her? No, I mean, fair, right? It's not top of mind in that moment, but then also it's not doing any good. So, of course, we're calling in on phones to talk to the doctor, and he's asking questions, and she just, you get nervous in that setting and she can't remember things. And so thankfully we were there, but I was trying to remind her, Mom, we have this amazing healthcare binder. Just throw it in your bag and take it with you. But that's not always top of mind. And so I love the email idea of, if we all have it, in theory, you could say like, hey, Mom or Dad, remember that email I sent you? Search for the topic mom's healthcare or whatever it is. Like the multi faceted deployment of tech, right? Like let's cover our bases times 3 so that in the moment when we need something, if the notebook failed, maybe one of the other types will suffice.
So I'm looking down from the camera right now. Since we were talking about the medications, and Adrienne, you said something about this. First of all, I want to confirm with everybody, I am not a doctor, I am not an attorney, I'm not a financial specialist. I'm just a caregiver with lived experience, right? However, there was a platform that I don't even remember how I found it, and it was so valuable to me. So I'm going to put it in the chat. It's not the actual URL, it's just the name of it. Epocrates. I don't know if either one of you have heard of this. I quickly discovered that caring for my mom meant I had to become a pseudo nurse, doctor, pharmacist, right? Clinical technician, because I was hands-on. And mom was on a lot of different medications, but she had different doctors within these different specialties, right? So they would look at this issue and prescribe this medication. But how do I know that this issue didn't work with this issue for the medications? Epocrates is a platform that allows you to type in the medications. It gives you a very in-depth description of what they are, and then it shows you the interactions.
Oh, wow.
So if you know your parent is on prescription X and Y, and then another doctor prescribes Z, you go into Epocrates, you type it in, and you go, whoa, 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 hold up. Z does not interact well with the other two. This could cause a major issue. I'm not a doctor, but there were times when I questioned some of the medications, and then an individual doctor would say, "Oh, okay, well, let's look at something different." Because I'm literally reading, well, if I start giving mom that medication, it says right here that that could cause heart failure. So so anyhow, I found it to be extremely helpful at the time. It was free. I don't know if there's a paid version now or not, but highly recommend you to take a look at it if your parents are on any kind of medication or yourself for that matter. Use that as a great source for knowledge. As a caregiver, you will find that one of your best tools is to read. Read everything you can get your hands on. Everything you can get your hands on.
That's awesome. Thank you for suggesting that resource. So I know that we have about like 7 minutes left. I'd be curious from the audience if they could also type in, was this type of conversation interesting, helpful, and are there any other topics in the future that you would like to learn about, discuss, perhaps hear a little bit of our lived experience on if it's relevant, just so we can begin to plan how this might be relevant to you. I'll
Yeah,
put that
that
there
would be
and people
great.
can type
Yeah, I think
in
that's great. I
whatever they
I
want.
love that because I think we don't know what we don't know, and hearing from people about what topics they want to talk about, it can help us customize some future chats. I think we all between us have a lot of expertise or know experts that can shed light on really an incredible amount of topics. And I think, Julia, one of the things you were referring to earlier that I had no idea existed until I participated in the Colorado Commission on Aging was the area agencies on aging.
Yes.
And I had no idea that was a thing. I didn't know what they
Mhm.
did. And until I was in these meetings with all these other people who already knew about it, I had never learned. And so I think we've talked about that might have a different name in each county and each state, but every state has an area agency on aging office. That is often maybe your first best place to go when you are looking to see what resources are available. because there are a shocking amount of resources available. I think that, to your point, doing reading is critical, but sometimes it's overwhelming, right? You don't even know where to start. I realize my parents need some extra help with their trash cans, and they, of course, don't think they need extra help with their trash cans, but I would like to see them not fall on the curb in the dark dealing with trash cans. And so a quick web search revealed like their area agency on aging could help me figure that out. Call the trash company, they'll help manage that for us. But it's always a fact-finding mission, right? Every time you have a new challenge, you have to go to square one. And so I think we are hoping to provide education so that everybody doesn't always have to go back to square one. But I think a good place to start often, and Julia, you're probably a better expert on this than I am, but that area agency on aging is a great first pass resource.
Yeah. It's, eh, start there in your community. As you said, every state has that. I was not aware of that. And I will say this as we reach our time here. Sometimes you're in it, you evolve into caregiving, and then sometimes you don't really see yourself as a caregiver. You just do the things that need doing. You make the calls, you visit places, you just do it all. And you go, I'm not a caregiver. I'm just doing what's right. Right. It wasn't until I reached out to an agency and they were doing their intake questionnaire, and I was walking the person through my entire day. And she just looked at me and said, oh my gosh, how are you managing all of this? And until she said that to me, and I remember I started crying in her office because I just thought, well, I'm just doing it. And then I look back and go, oh my gosh, that was insane. That was absolutely insane. Um, don't feel like you have to be a super person, a superman, a superwoman. You don't. That doesn't mean shirk your responsibilities or, the care that you want to provide. But you don't have to do it all alone. Reach out. You may not always get the answer you want, um, but reach out to your area agency on aging. Reach out to whatever hospital. If you're in a situation where you have a care team or doctors work at that hospital, sometimes the hospitals have programs. They just a lot of times don't promote them. Um, if you are involved with your faith and your church, ask them if they have programs that assist. If you're a veteran, definitely check with the VA. Again, at the federal level, a lot of changes in the last year, but reach out, find out what programs are available through the VA for caregivers, and do it early. I always say to people, once you're in the thick of it and you're in a crisis, it's too late because you're tired, you're overwhelmed, you're not thinking straight. Do it early. And this will be my challenge to all of you. Pick one thing a week as an action item and start now. Don't wait until your parents are in a situation where you absolutely have to be there. Start now and pick one thing. And then you'll have the binder that you've put together, Kirsten, and the binder that I had, and probably the binder that you have, Adrienne. You'll have it all. And then you can refer to it.
And that binder will definitely evolve over time as needs and situations change. I'm seeing like a good number of very, very fascinating topics coming through. Thank you very much, Mark, for your suggestions. I think the sharing and caring one, I think could be an interesting one because it's, as caregivers, sometimes we feel like we are an army of one, but that isn't always the case. And Kirsten, I think in one of your recent articles about Viking women and your Danish heritage, I think there was like one line that really stuck out at me, which was, don't be this, heroic solo individual. Instead, like mandate and call a choir to come together. And I think that's a mentality where perhaps as caregivers, the role kind of like falls in our lap and we just like deal with it and run with it without actually thinking, okay, maybe I need a constellation, a network of people with different skills and experiences and availability, etc., to help me with this journey. And how do I do that? Not just to ensure that I have more bases covered, but also make sure that I'm kind of as an act of self-preservation, also keeping myself sane. So I think that'd be a great topic for us to explore at some point.
I think so too.
A lot of good stuff. It can be overwhelming. Break it off into little chunks.
Yes. Yeah. Well, if that's it, I think we're at time. Again, really appreciate everyone joining. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Kirsten. This has been really exciting, and hopefully the first of many.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for getting the ball rolling.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for those who joined. Appreciate that. Share it on your Substacks.
Yes, please share it on your Substack.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Be safe. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.